I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Sonic Perspectives, I am very excited to be speaking with legendary guitarist and the one and only spaceman, Ace Frehley, to talk about his new album, 10,000 Volts, which is coming out on February 23rd. Ace, welcome. It's truly an honor to speak with you.
It's completely my pleasure. I've been doing interviews for weeks now, and I'm kind of on a roll, and it's fun.
And
Especially, it's fun because I don't have to leave my home.
that's the best part of it. And the
Uh,
fans really appreciate that you continue to put out new music and inspire musicians and guitar players. So kudos to you on that.
Paul and Gene must think this is some type of planned attack on them, but it just so happened I finished my record, a couple of weeks before their last show, and everything just fell into place right after they retired from rock and roll.
Right.
And luckily, the new single released, 10,000 Volts, has broken all of my previous records. So I'm in a good place right now.
That's great. You know, what I love about the most about 10,000 Volts is there's a ribbon that ties the album together, and it's the infectious melody. Songs like Cherry Medicine and Fighting for Life are playing in my head all the time. And I think it's the truest Ace album since your solo album in 78. Would you agree?
I think it's probably the best album since my 78 record. And I attribute half of that to Steve Brown, who's a great songwriter, great vocalist, great guitar player, and a great engineer.
Yep, I agree. I grew up with Steve, so in Jersey.
Yeah,
So I'm friends with him. He does a great job. He's a really talented guitar player and a great guy. Couldn't have picked somebody better to work with than him.
salt of the earth. I have a studio in my basement, as you can see,
Mhm.
and Steve has one in his. And once we got rolling, we'd alternate from my studio to his studio. And every time the dinner bell rang, I'd go upstairs. His wife would cook. His two daughters are sitting at the table. Eventually I started doing magic tricks for them because magic is my hobby.
Mhm.
And we got along famously.
I did hear
And
about magic was your hobby. I heard that you were able to balance milk containers on top of a knife. Is that
I can
accurate?
levitate stuff. I do coin tricks, rope tricks, card tricks, and all sorts of weird stuff. I picked up along the way. When you hang out, when I used to drink, hang out in bars, you learn little tricks here and there with coins and cards and whatnot. If the bartender has any type of imagination.
That's true. Was there any aspects of the first of your 78 solo album that you wanted to capture on this album? Was that intentional?
I really don't think about stuff I've done in the past when I record.
Mhm.
I just kind of purge forward. And once I got together with Steve, the first song we wrote together was "Walking on the Moon,"
Mhm.
and it turned out so good. We're actually shooting the video on January 19th, and I'm going to be beamed down from a UFO onto the moon. We're going to meet some aliens, and it's going to be funny. Um, but working with Steve, the beauty of working with, I'm a firm believer in the less chefs in the studio, in the kitchen.
Mhm.
You know, too many chefs spoil the stew. So it was just me and Steve, 90% of the time, because Steve is a great Pro Tools engineer.
Mhm.
So, I can engineer as well, but not as good as Steve. And I'd be doing a vocal, and then I get on the board and engineer for his background harmonies or whatever a case may be, a rhythm track. Or we just had a lot of fun, and it was magic, you know. I just can't wait to embark on a new project with him, and that new project will be Origins Volume 3.
Very cool. I have to wonder, were there any leftover tracks from 10,000 volts that you and Steve worked on that would be on another studio album?
Well, I worked on a couple of tracks before I even actually started working with Steve.
Mhm.
We rewrote one, which ended up being Up in the Sky. That was originally titled Fact or Fiction.
Mhm.
Uh, but I mean, I have tons of songs. Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
was just looking through. I have all these old remember those little handheld digital
Yeah.
recorders you buy in Radio Shack?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have 6 of them filled with song ideas, and I have a box full of lyrics. So it's just a matter of, putting it all together and making it work.
No, that's fascinating. I always wondered about if you were stockpiling riffs, and it sounds like you are for these future releases.
And a lot of times if I have an idea, I'll be sitting in my bedroom with a guitar and a small lamp. I'll just hit record on my phone button,
Mhm.
and I have probably 25 song ideas on my iPhone. So, I mean, technology has really benefited me in allowing me to move forward more quickly. Pro Tools is such a dream to work on because you got to remember when I worked with Eddie Kramer and Vinnie Poncia and Bob Ezrin, we were using 2-inch tape.
Right.
So every time we wanted to make any type of serious edit, we'd have to cut the tape with a razor blade and paste it back together with tape.
Mhm.
And it was very time consuming, and sometimes the song lost its spontaneity because of that. But now it's just a click of the mouse. You highlight the section on the screen that you want to delete, and
Mhm.
you hit delete, and it automatically butts up the parts that are still there that you want to keep. And if the part that you edited out has disappeared.
I get it. I get
And
it.
if you screw up, you just hit undo.
It can't go wrong.
No.
Besides the melody on this album, I thought your guitar tone was great. I mean, it's full and present, and it's got tremendous bite and definition. Is that something that you and Steve talked about in the studio that you wanted?
Well, from day one, once me and Steve started working together, he said to me from the very beginning, he goes, Ace, this is going to be one of your best albums to date,
Agreed.
and I'll have nothing less. So the songs he brought to me and the songs I brought to him, you know, a lot of times we ended up rewriting. In fact, 90% of the songs that he brought to me, I usually ended up rewriting most of the vocals. You know, we had one song, I forget the title of it. It escapes me. I'm looking at the song titles right now on my other screen. But yeah, it didn't have a bridge. So I said, Steve, this song needs a bridge. He goes, really? I don't think so. I go, so 5 minutes, I wrote a bridge. And he goes, yeah, that's great. Makes the song better.
That's great. Do you ever worry about living up to your expectation as a guitar player? Because you've influenced 5 decades of guitarists and musicians.
Yeah, I'm still playing guitar the same way I did, when I was on the first record with Kiss.
Mhm.
And, my style is pretty distinctive, but it's not that special, in my opinion. I learned how to play guitar from Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Pete Townsend, and Jimi Hendrix. And, people say, Ace, you never took a guitar lesson.
Right.
I had the best guitar players in the world to listen to and copy their guitar solos, and eventually, my guitar style pretty much is a conglomerate of those 5 guys.
Right. It's like a big melting pot where all of them came in and you kind of meshed it up.
And, if you listen to my earlier work, you can hear it.
Mhm. And I,
Jimmy Page was a huge influence on me, and because he was like a songwriter, producer, guitar player. I didn't even know that Jeff Beck was not really a songwriter,
mhm.
but amazing guitar player and can play anything. I didn't even realize that, I met Jeff Beck at the Iridium Club in Manhattan, and he doesn't even use a guitar pick. He uses his fingers.
Mhm.
And it's just amazing what comes out of the amp when he's performing.
It's true. It's magical.
It's like he was always like the guitar player's guitar player. I
Yes.
have so many friends who are guitar players, and they go, you got to go see Jeff Beck. Nobody plays like Jeff Beck. And, also Jimi Hendrix, nobody sounded like Jimi Hendrix, and nobody ever will. I mean, the closest guy that ever came to sounding like Jimi Hendrix was, what's his name? Who was that guy who had a band that
Jim, Gary Moore.
no, Gary was an excellent guitar player. I love him. See, I'm bad with names, so you
That's all right. You were my introduction to rock and roll, to music, to guitar playing. So all of your influence funneled to you, and then it funneled into me to be a better guitar player and trying to emulate what you did and learn from you. So, you know, as well as hundreds of thousands of kids out there at the time when high school. So your guitar playing was masterful to us. And that's what we love about your style. And it is unique. It's truly unique style.
yeah, I just I'll never forget the day I auditioned for Kiss, and they played Deuce for me, and I listened to it, and when it came time for the guitar solo, they said, just rip it out, you know,
Yeah.
no pun intended. But I just played every guitar solo I knew, and they extended the solo to really hear me what I was capable of. And I remember Paul telling me, even though that day they told me, we'll let you know in 2 weeks, he said he knew immediately I was the guy.
Right, right. That's awesome.
So, but that was meant to be, and the rest is history.
You know, what I love too about this album was the positivity in the lyrics. How has your lyric writing changed from the 70s until now? What do you like to work on then? And what do you like to work on now? What do you like to discuss
I
lyrically?
was telling an interviewer the other day, when I was living in Chappaqua, New York. My daughter was about 10 or 11, and my office was next to her bedroom. And she was listening to my 78 solo record, and she was listening to Ozone.
Yeah.
And she's in the room with her girlfriend, and the lyric opens up, I'm the kind of guy who likes getting high. You know, I don't write songs like that anymore. I've been sober 17 years,
I,
and that's not the message I try to put out there for the kids.
that was in a lot of the messages, those little drug nuances or getting high references. Did knowing who your audience was in Kiss, was that ever a concern with Gene and Paul that it would maybe cross the line?
Uh, I don't really remember them saying, in in the 70s, anything went.
That's true.
Uh, and today it crosses the line for me, and I'm a solo artist, so I don't have to get Paul and Gene's approval or opinion on what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, I try to shy away. Most of my songs are about girls, let's face it.
Yeah.
But I remember calling up Steve while we were halfway through the record, and I said, look, we got to write a song that has nothing to do with women. And I said, I had just been reading some interviews on artificial intelligence and how dangerous it could be, and eventually it may take us out. And a lot of famous scientists and heads of CEOs are in agreement if it's not regulated properly.
Sure.
But, in the same token, even if we, put forth regulations on artificial intelligence, you got the Russians and the Chinese playing around with it. And
True. And you got kids in their basement messing around and doing inappropriate things with it too, and causing a lot of harm and trouble to their peers.
it's, some scientists say within 5 to 10 years, it's gonna, once it becomes, self-aware,
Right.
gonna realize that we can pull the plug on them, all
True.
the computers, and they may want to take us out.
I hear you. Congratulations on the 17 years of being sober.
Oh,
Was there
thanks.
any concern when you were getting sober that your best creative days were behind you? Because that's really not the case, but at the time, were you worried?
Yeah, like the first year, I didn't have a drink. I stopped working, I stopped touring, and I just knew if I was going to survive on this planet, I had to stop doing what I was doing. And, there was always a voice in the back of my mind going, you're not going to be as creative as you were without that stuff. But, eventually after several years of sobriety, I came to the realization that I'm more creative with it, without it.
And you're pumping out albums every couple of years, which is,
Yeah.
huge. Not many artists are doing that nowadays.
And
Continue.
my ex-partners haven't put out an album in 20 years.
Yep, that's true. Now that Kiss is technically over with, do you think there'll be an increased demand for your live shows worldwide, more to hear so that fans could hear the Kiss classics done and performed accurately?
Well, I just hired a new agent, BTE,
Mhm.
and they have a lot. They have Vince Neil, Queen's right, lead singer from Rat.
Stephen Pierce, yeah.
But most of the people on his roster are hard rock, heavy metal bands. So he can package 2 or 3 of the bands that he handles with me, and it can make a great show.
True.
And plus, he can get me more money than my old agent could because he has more clout and he has more connections. So the timing came perfectly of me leaving my old agent and signing with Sullivan Biggs from BTE Management.
Right, right.
And he used to be he used to be in LA, and he said he couldn't take it anymore. I mean, I've lived in LA on 2 separate occasions, and now it's starting to go downhill. A lot of homeless people,
True.
a lot
True.
of insanity. And he's based out of Palm Springs. I'm based out of New Jersey now.
Right.
But I was so surprised when I moved to New Jersey, 'cause I always said to myself, I'm never going to move to New Jersey because I'm from the Bronx. But, I was just on the phone with Eddie Trunk the other day, and he has 2 or 3 houses here. Steve lives 45 minutes away. And actually, Anton Fig just sold his house and moved to Piedmont, which is just south of Nyack by the Tappan Zee Bridge. And I'm always crossing that bridge because my daughter lives in White Plains. So when I visit her, but he's only 40 minutes from me. So it's great. Bruno, the guy who mixed and mastered the record, lives in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And the more and more I've been here for 5 years, and the more I live here, the more I realize a lot of people in the music industry live in New Jersey. I don't know why.
Yep. I was born and raised in Jersey, so yeah, it's a great place to live. It's beautiful towns, and
Which
very nice.
town?
I'm in Bridgewater. I'm about probably about 45 minutes from you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You always know to put an instrumental song on the end of every one of your albums. On this one, it's Stratosphere. And it really shows your guitar virtuosity. Have you ever considered doing a full album of guitar instrumentals?
I could, but I think the fans would get bored
Mm,
after a while. Somehow, some way, I've been able to maintain my vocals. In fact, a lot of people say my vocals are stronger now than they were 10, 15 years ago.
sure.
It's probably because I've been on tour for so many years with whatever band I was working with, and I have to sing the majority of the songs. So, your throat is a muscle. So, I think my vocals are stronger now than they were way back when. And I don't have any problem hitting those notes in the studio. And if I do, we just retrack it.
That's fantastic to hear because a lot of people, as they get older, their vocals, are getting more and more problematic to sing those notes. So it's good to know that you're getting better. And it's
Paul Stanley has a great voice,
true.
but I don't think in the 70s he thought about the longevity of the band, because he used to sing songs that were at the peak of his range.
Yep.
And they sounded great. And Paul was a great front man.
Yes.
And, but when you're in your set, he's only 6 months younger than me. And I know he had a operation in 2009, for, polyps or whatever you get in your throat.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, it wasn't successful.
Oh, boy.
And it's unfortunate because that's his bread and butter, and then, the whole thing went on over the last several years about Kiss using backup tracks, and it's unfortunate. It would be like I can't play guitar anymore because something happened. I mean, I've said it in numerous interviews. If I ever blew out my voice and I couldn't sing anymore, I just hire a new lead singer.
Right, right. Are you taking vocal lessons or have you taken vocal lessons to help train you?
No guitar lessons, no vocal lessons. I'm a fly by the seat of his pants kind of guy.
Steve is a great vocal coach too, I'm sure, as you know.
Steve can do anything. His two favorite guitar players are me and Eddie Van Halen, God rest his soul.
Right, right.
And one day we were just hanging around in my studio and I said, play me some Eddie Van Halen stuff. And he was playing Eddie Van Halen stuff note for note, which completely blew me away because I can't even play some of those solos note for note. And
he's been doing that since.
I always thought the slower solos that are melodic and kind of weave in and out of a melody always work better for me. There's solos that people can hum. I mean, try humming a solo by Yngwie.
Yeah, right. That's online with Neil Sean. Great melodic, memorable solos that you could sing, and everybody's singing it in the audience while he's playing it. He's tremendous too.
I know Neil. He's a great guitar player. There's so many great guitar players out there, and so many mediocre guitar players that are CEOs of companies and stuff. Almost everybody I meet, has a guitar at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you influenced them probably at some point. So
most children. Most of them say, they got it from Alive. After they heard the Alive album, everybody bought a guitar.
That's true. It's true. The first line of the first verse in Cosmic Heart reads, "You've traveled the world and tasted life to the max. Every musician wants to be a rock star." To someone who's lived it for the last 50 years, does the reality of it compare to the dream?
Is the reality of it
being a rock star how does the reality of being a rock star compare to the dream of being a rock star?
It doesn't.
How so?
I remember when I was living in Connecticut and built that big studio up in Wilton, Connecticut. I spent over $800,000, and
back then
it was And then around the same time, we recorded The Elder there, which I didn't think was the right album for that time period. It's
Agreed.
not a bad record. I just don't think that I think our fans wanted an album more like Creatures of the Night.
Agreed.
If the guys who recorded Creatures of the Night instead of The Elder, I might not have quit the band.
Wow.
But after working on The Elder and me constantly saying, we got to make this album heavier, and I got all this resistance from Paul Jean and Bob Ezrin,
Yeah.
I just said, I think it's time for me to move forward with my own group.
It's true. It's true. So being a rock star, is it better than being the dream or equal par?
Well, there's pros and cons. I can't go anywhere. I was talking to a friend of mine from Las Vegas, and he's going, "Are you going to the NAMM show this year?" I go, "I can't go to the NAMM show. I get mobbed."
Right, right.
I'd love to go and check out all the new products that are out on the market, but I'm surrounded by a bunch of kids following me around, wanting autographs and wanting to take photos with me. So it really doesn't work out. I mean, I went to an Italian restaurant with Steve and his wife, whose name escapes me. Steve's wife's name?
I can't remember the name. No, I've only met her once.
Anyway, they're a cute couple. They have two beautiful daughters. One is actually a pole vaulter, and now she's decided to go into law.
Wow.
And then he has a younger daughter who's only about 10.
Yes.
And she's really cute. And I told Steve, that's the one you're going to have to worry about when she grows up.
What happened in the Italian restaurant?
Oh, well, the owner was a huge fan of mine. Pulled out his iPhone. He sat down at the table and started, he had videos of me playing BB King's, which was about 7 years ago. And he just couldn't talk enough about my guitar soloing and stuff I've done and places I played where he's seen me perform.
Yeah.
And then, once I started taking photos with him, then the people at the other tables, it was actually it was kind of like a mob joint. And so I had to take pictures with these guys, with noses like this,
Oh.
because you don't say no to them.
No, you don't say no. You have to know better than that, right? New Jersey, particularly New Jersey.
I
Right?
must have taken almost 40, 50 photos that night.
Particularly New Jersey. When you,
Yeah, but I love those guys. I grew up with those guys. I grew up in the Bronx. I was a member of the Ducky Gang, and they were in the movie The Warriors.
right.
And it's not that I really wanted to be in a gang. It's because I got sick of being beat up
That sucks, yeah.
when I went to the corner candy store. So I said, well, if I join a gang, I'll have protection.
Smart.
So when I would go to the corner candy store after I had joined the Ducky Boys, people would say, don't fuck with him. He's in the Ducky Boys. There will be retribution.
Something.
And then eventually what saved me from the gang scene was music, because the guys used to call me up on weekends saying, hey, we're going to break into this warehouse. We're going to steal a couple of cars. We're going to have a fight with another gang, just bring chains and knives, no guns. And I said, I can't, I got a gig, and eventually they got tired of calling me.
That's funny. Just bring chains and knives. Someday when you decide to retire and your last show, how do you think you will end that last show, and possibly where do you ever see that last show being ended?
I have no plans of retiring. I was talking to Steve. I said, well, I went to my doctor about a month ago, and usually when you get blood work, the doctor sits down and discusses, what organs aren't working right, so on and so forth. But he was looking at my blood work and he started laughing. And I go, Dr. Fader, what the hell are you laughing at? And he goes, well, I'm looking at the last 3 years of your blood work, and every year it's getting progressively better. And he goes, you're the only patient I have that's aging in reverse.
That's awesome.
We got a kick out of that. But, all my organs are working fine. I started working out. My lovely fiance, Laura, is a personal trainer. And she sang on Concert with Cute, the
Right.
pre-chorus and the chorus. She sang harmony. And, oh, look who just walked in.
Hey, Rob, what's up,
Hey,
brother?
buddy, how are you?
Awesome, man. This is a guy we met at DHA, and I told you he was my friend since I was like 11 years old. He used to
Right.
work at this great
Move that
music
mirror
store.
and pull up a chair.
What's
Yeah, pull
up,
up
bro?
a chair. Yeah, I was saying that Steve, when at 13 years old, when I knew him, he was able to play Van Halen licks note for note, which was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Then I was 19. I was like, what the hell is this kid doing?
Yeah.
Steve,
But,
it's good to see you, buddy.
see you again as well, brother. So
Yeah,
happy.
so nice.
I saw your name on the interview list, so I was so psyched that you were
Yeah,
that you got
I wasn't sure if you were going to join. It's really good to have you join. He was talking so many good things about you, Steve. And I
Oh
think
man,
it's all true.
yeah, well, we get along so well, and again, the chemistry is undeniable. I think he told you that from the first day that we worked together, and we cut Walking on the Moon. What you hear on the record is 95% what we did that first day together.
And I
That's
was
kind
thinking, I thought you brought in a lot of melody. I think that's the ribbon that ties this whole album together is the melody. And I was saying, Cherry Medicine stuck in your head. You go to bed and it's in your head. You wake up in the morning, it's in your head. So it's great songs,
That was the most important thing that we discussed right at the beginning. And Ace said to me, he goes, I want every song to be great, and I want every song to be 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So there were definitely some arguments that we
I
had.
don't know
Like,
if I said 3 minutes.
you were kind of like that. It was
Yeah.
like we got into a habit where it was like I knew I'd be sweating when we got done with the song, and I go, I know what's gonna happen. He's gonna cut it down. And 98% of the time, I gotta give him credit. The edits that he did, 98% of the time, he was exactly right, because we trimmed these songs down very much like the Rock and Roll Over record and the classic Kiss records, his solo record. Those songs were short and concise, no fat, just nothing but punch and melody and great guitar solos.
That's awesome.
Tell him the time I called you up in the morning after we recorded Blinded.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, he called me up. He was so excited about, these, and again, most importantly, is a guy, we started this record. He was 71 years old. We were acting like teenagers making this record, laughing. We had so much fun. And I think that transfers into what you hear on the record. There's a great positive, and yet there's a rock and roll fun. You could hear the youthfulness in it, which is so important.
I was thinking about you the other day, Steve, too, was that, did you ever have a plan B? Because since 13 years old, this is all you ever wanted to do.
Oh, plan B.
There was
No, man. There was
plan
never...
A to make the very best record, and we were going to settle for nothing less.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that comes to this as well. But to your question, no, there was never a plan B. Ask Ace. Did he have any? This was it. He was going to be a rock star. This is what I'm going to be. This is what we do. We're musicians.
If we had a song that we didn't think was up to par, we'd just put it off to the side and start with another one.
Yep.
He was just telling me he's working out and he's eating better, and his doctor said he's doing better. When I saw you guys at DHA, Ace looked great. He looked like he did in 1996. He was thin as me.
I mean, and this is just coming from a friend's perspective, forget about working together. The guy is in mentally, spiritually, and physically in the best shape of his life, and he's
a lot of that has to do with my fiance.
Yeah, of course. Laura's been just an incredible incredible part of his life for the last 5 years. That's just lifted him up and taken him through.
And she's responsible for getting you and me together.
That's right, baby. Check's in the mail. Wait a second. Beautiful. I love you. But again, man, for me, this has been one of the most fulfilling recording and record making experiences of my life. As you know, I don't need to tell you, Rob, what this guy means to me. And more than anything, we have become such dear friends now.
That's awesome. Yeah, what a great combination. I was telling Ace, I hope you guys do another one, another studio album of all new tracks down the road, because I
The
think
next album isn't going to be a studio album. It's going to be Origins Volume 3, which
Yeah.
is going to be all covers.
Right.
We might end up putting one new song on, which I think I've done on a lot of the Origins records. But
Yeah.
most of them are going to be covers, and we really want to
Duets.
get some big stars.
Yeah, we're gonna do some cool duets. It's gonna be different than the other Origins
better.
records. Oh, it's gonna blow your mind. And then, you know, there maybe, you know, I'm trying to get this guy. I really want him to do a live record because I think the fans would just love that. But we got so many plans. We got a new booking agency. Things are just going crazy.
Tell them about BTE.
Yeah. Things are going great. This next year, 2024, into the, you know, when he rides into the sunset, whenever he decides he wants to retire, his career, everything is going up, up, up. You know,
Steve, do you ever join his band? I mean, is that an option?
I mean, you know, look, he's got a great band. I was just talking to Jeremy and Ryan and Scott before. You know, there's really no need for that, you know, but I'm always here to help him out should there be any sort of, you know, any time when he needs me. He knows I'm always here. He's my brother.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Jeremy got sick. He could fill in for Jeremy in the blink of an eye.
yeah.
Sure. He did it for Def Leppard in a blink of an eye, so he could do it for
Right.
everybody, right?
But cool. So, all right, Rob, we got to jump. I think we got to get
Okay.
on to our next.
Guys,
That's
thank
on.
you so much. Ace, I love the album. Steve, I love the album. Fantastic job. Kudos to both of you, and I'll see you.
Pleasure being
You're
on
the
show.
best, man, dude. Paramus, New Jersey, World Imports.
Paramus. Oh,
Yeah,
you're not far
it's the
from us
best.
at all.
The Bergen Mall, man. My
Bergen
heart
Mall.
and soul.
Best of luck to you guys. I'll see you in Carteret, okay?
Yep. See you, Rob.
Bye-bye,
Thanks.
Ace. Thank you so much, Ace. It was an honor.
My pleasure.